Update. My 32 male wife's 30 female friend cheated on her fiancé at her bachelorette party. My wife doesn't think it's that big of a deal. Help? Original post. A few weeks ago, my wife went to Miami for one of her best friend's bachelorette parties. After she got back, I overheard a conversation between my wife and another one of her friends who was also at the bachelorette party. Long story short, the bride-to-be cheated on her fiancé while she was there. She met a guy at a club, took him back to her hotel room, and they had sex. I was shocked. To me, this was a big deal. The wedding is in a few weeks. But my wife didn't think it was that big of a deal. She said the bride shouldn't have done it, but it was just sex with a guy she'd never see again. Just one last fling before her friend settled down. Nothing to call off a wedding for. I could not believe what I was hearing, and my thoughts immediately turned to my wife's own bachelorette party. She went to Vegas for the weekend with the same group. If she didn't think it was a big deal, did she hook up with someone while she was there? She swore on the life of our daughter that she didn't. She admitted to dancing and flirting, but nothing more. This led to a larger conversation about her thoughts on emotionless sex. Another shocker was that she admitted that if I were the type of guy who would be okay with her sleeping with other guys, she would probably do it. She knows I wouldn't be okay with it, so she has never brought it up. She again said that sex isn't love and that she has always been able to sleep with men and not get attached. Her friend thinks the same way. Now, I'm not thinking about divorce, but I feel like my entire world has been turned upside down. What does everyone think? Edit, I wanted to add one more thing that gives a little more insight into her thinking. She mentioned that if I had an affair that was purely physical, she would be able to forgive me. But if it was emotional, then it would be over. I'm the complete opposite. If my wife had an emotional affair, I'd see this as something I could fix. I don't know if that's just a guy thing or not. Now for the top advice before reading the update. My friend banged a guy. Me? Oh, I just danced and flirted. And by the way, I'd be totally up for banging random guys if you're cool with it. OP, please read this comment a few times. That would be enough of a difference in morals for me to heavily consider divorce. And I've been married to my wife for 7 years, and we have a kid. I wouldn't want someone like that raising my children. Same. I don't think I could stay if my husband knew his friend cheated on his fiancée weeks before their wedding. And not only didn't think it was a big deal, but claimed the only reason he doesn't cheat on me is because he knows I would mind. I think it would lead me to the assumption that my husband does not fundamentally respect fidelity in marriage/relationships. I think I would consider this viewpoint to be as good as cheating. If it's no big deal, why hide it from her future husband? The argument falls apart right there. That, and OP is gonna come back to the comment section with everyone on Reddit telling him it's pretty obvious his wife has cheated on him at some point. Gonna be a tough Thanksgiving for OP, lol. That's probably because she did the same at her bachelorette party, dude. Ask if she slept with anyone at her bachelorette party. When she says no, ask her why she didn't. She clearly doesn't think it's a wrong thing to do. If she says she didn't sleep with anyone out of loyalty to you, ask her why it doesn't apply here. Now for the update. Anyway, many of you told me to tell the fiancé. I debated it, but another one of my wife's friends, call her Claire, who was also at the bachelorette weekend, beat me to it. The whole scene was quite dramatic from what I heard. My wife and Claire were at the house of the friend who cheated. Call her Wendy. When the fiancé came into the room, Claire said to Wendy that she needed to tell him now, or she would. The fiancé pretty much knew what she meant, and basically broke down. There was a lot of screaming and crying. The fiancé took it really hard, and as of now, the wedding is off. My wife looked shaken when she came home. She ended up apologizing for making light of the situation, given how much pain it caused the fiancé. I told her, no kidding, and she admitted that her views on this were obviously much different than most people's. She gave me a hug and said she would never be able to live with herself if she hurt me like that. As for what happened at her bachelorette party, Claire was present for my wife's bachelorette as well. Claire and I have also been friends for years. I met my wife through her actually. So it stands to reason that she would have definitely told me if my wife slept with another guy during her bachelorette. So I suppose I'm satisfied for now. Your wife sounds somewhat low empathy, but I suppose if this concrete event of seeing others' significant distress and pain over infidelity taught her some empathy/compassion, that is a good thing. And store this memory in your mind though, as she doesn't have a solid moral compass clearly. The status update is very dramatic, but it doesn't get at the issue of whether OP and his wife have defined cheating and set boundaries in their own marriage. It is doubly important that they do this, since OP's wife doesn't seem to be on the same page as him. Good point, but I will say this is clearly a monogamous relationship. And obviously banging a random dude and lying about it while you're in a monogamous relationship is cheating. So your wife had to have a front row seat and experience firsthand the devastating effects of cheating in order for her to finally understand why cheating is wrong, horrible, and cruel? That's still hella sus. I would never look at my wife the same way again, but if you guys are able to work past it, then all the more power to you. I hate that I agree with the sus part. Did she say she never cheated, or only that she didn't want to hurt you that way? Because if she cheated, she could avoid hurting you by never telling you. I would still have a look at the phone bill and messages. Have a heart-to-heart with Claire too. I agree it looks hella sus. Even if the friend Claire seems like she would out any cheating, it's also been a bit since the wife's own bachelorette party, and they now have a kid. If the wife was faithful or not back then, everyone is now looking at the family dynamic and keeping quiet about any possible infidelity. Last story. Update. I feel like my husband, 26 male, puts things off until I, 26 female, ends up handling things myself. Original post. My husband and I have had a rocky relationship. It's been 3 years since we got married, and I always hoped it would get a bit easier. I feel like we've tried a lot of different things to improve our relationship, but I often find myself feeling defeated and sad because it seems like nothing will ever change. Right now, we're in the process of moving. I stayed behind to finish things up at our house and has gone ahead to start working. We're literally starting from scratch. I sold everything, including our cars. We need to have a car, so I asked him to buy one and have it ready for us once I'm ready to move. He's met me with so many excuses, and I'm just tired. I'm finally flying to meet him next week and there's still no car. It's been a month. He mentioned to me offhand the other day that he was planning on buying a car once I fly in. But doesn't that defeat the purpose? All I asked was that he had one ready for when I arrived. I really don't want to go car shopping the second I get off the plane. I was excited and hopeful about the move. We talked about how things were going to change, and he seemed so motivated. But now I feel defeated again. I don't even feel angry anymore. What was I expecting? I'm not sure what advice I'm looking for. We get along pretty well when there aren't any big life decisions involved. He's a nice guy. I just don't trust him to take any responsibility in the relationship. I guess, has anyone been in a similar relationship? How did it go? When was it finally enough for you? Is there anything that can change? I'm really interested in starting couples therapy, but I'm afraid of putting effort into something that might not even work. Now for the top advice before reading the update 3 years later. My husband and I have had a rocky relationship. It's been 3 years since we've been married, and I always hoped it would get a bit easier. Hoping things get better almost never works. You said you had taken steps to improve things. Does that include counseling? If so, it is important to note that he has to want things to improve for them to get better. Based on the example behavior you provided, he sounds lazy, and I doubt he wants to improve your relationship. I don't even feel angry anymore. What was I expecting? If you've hit this point, it's probably time to cut your losses and move on. I'm sorry and good luck. Another point to consider is how he is in day-to-day life. Does he help with the chores? Does he take care of the bills? If not, he's most likely just lazy and wants to have a mommy to guide him through all the adult stuff. If not, maybe he has some kind of anxiety about doing big things without your input. Buying a car is a big thing. It should be discussed and agreed on by both parties. Maybe it's simply not a good dynamic and could be resolved by talking or getting some counseling. Hi, thanks for commenting. Everyone has been really helpful so far. There was a time when my husband wouldn't help out with chores or bills. I was cooking, cleaning, and working full-time while he got to play games. I do think he's gotten better, but there are a lot of times I still feel like I do more. I'm trying to be patient. I know people don't change overnight. It's just hard. I think I still have some hurt feelings from that time. Looking at it now, I think I hoped that if I asked him to do something more important, maybe he'd take it more seriously and be excited to contribute. I realize it's a big decision, but I've always been willing to talk about the financials and other details of the purchase. I think I would have really appreciated seeing his effort in taking over this decision. I've talked to him since posting this and we've gone over more details about the purchase, and he's actually made an appointment to start looking for cars. I'm still not 100% sure if it's purely an anxiety thing or if he is just coasting along with me, but I'm planning to organize my thoughts and talk openly about how this has made me feel once we're together. Thanks again. I've been thinking a lot about the situation. I appreciate it. My husband was bipolar and didn't take meds and was exactly like this. Not only did it start this way, but it got worse even after I had my son. I worked full-time, did all the errands, cleaning, cooking, and cared for my son. You need to put out an ultimatum, and if he tries short-term and then goes back to his old ways, cut and run. And get short-term changes, promises, gaslighting, the works. Listen to your gut, not the hope. Thanks for commenting. Bipolar disorder does run on my husband's side of the family, but I hadn't considered it. Thanks for sharing. I hope things are going well for you now. Now for the update. Hi Reddit. I made a post 3 years ago about my husband not taking the initiative when it came to purchasing a new car after a big move. My post didn't get too big, but I've always liked seeing updates, and a lot has changed in 3 years. So, I decided to log back in and make my own. After making the post, my husband made an appointment to go look at cars. I remember feeling really good about everything at that moment. I felt a huge relief knowing that this big thing was finally getting taken care of. When his appointment came, my husband called me to tell me some good news. He had seen one car, decided it was good, and told me that this was the one we would be buying. While he was still in the dealership, I asked him to tell me the details, like how much the interest was and how much the car cost. I asked him if he had compared it to Kelley Blue Book to see if it was a fair deal. My husband was kind enough to ask the salesman everything, but after each question he added, "I'm sorry my wife is making this so difficult." I was pretty hurt and embarrassed by this and told him so, but he said all my questions were frustrating and were slowing down the process of the one thing I had asked him to do. In the end, he decided to wait for me to arrive so that we could sign for the car together. I ended up getting picked up from the airport and taken straight to the car dealership. We got a good interest rate on a car, but we ended up overpaying by about $7,000. I should have said no to the car and just looked myself, but I was young and embarrassed, and I felt like I wasn't being supportive. Thankfully, that car ended up being our only shared piece of property in our divorce. I didn't trust him to refinance the car, so I ended up taking it. We owed so much more money on that car than it was worth that I couldn't get it refinanced for several months. I ended up trading it, and even though I'm still in the hole financially because of it, I am so much happier now. We did try therapy before ultimately divorcing. My ex-husband was quite the prodigy. He was cured, his words not mine, after a week. He said that he had it all figured out and didn't see the point in continuing. He also told me that he was the only one who had ever put any effort into the relationship and that it was 100% my fault that we were divorcing. He told me that no one would ever love him again if I left, and that he might as well off himself because there was no point in going on. When that didn't work, he said that no one would ever love me again, and that I was lucky he had stayed around as long as he did. He then asked me if I would forge his signature on the divorce documents because I was basically forcing him to do it anyway. I did not. Anyway, I'm happy to report that he was successfully able to move on from the trauma I put him through. He's still around, but I've kept my distance because I can't be bothered, so I'm unsure of what he's up to. I was able to find someone after some time. My boyfriend is so kind. Sometimes I feel like it's too good to be true. Then again, I get Twitter padded when he does simple things like taking out the trash, cooking, or maintaining a full-time job. So the bar is in hell. He's a great guy, and he does more than the bare minimum, I promise. Looking back, I knew that I wanted a divorce. I just wasn't ready to admit it. My ex-husband doesn't love or respect me. I didn't put many details about the relationship in my first post, and I don't really feel the need to put it all out there now. But I know now that if someone truly loves you, they make sure you know. Thanks, Reddit. You were right. Walking out on a marriage and untangling everything is really hard to do. You got married too young. It is amazing that you were able to do it. Enjoy your new life. P.S. The cured prodigy will find another poor woman who will live your same story. I very much hope she spots the red flags before it's too late. I feel like I dated one person and then married someone completely different. It was very surprising. Google weaponized incompetence girl. That reminds me of a post about the bathroom deep clean. The poster had a husband who didn't pull his weight at home or in their relationship. She's been asking him to clean the bathroom for ages, but he just wouldn't, or he'd half-ass it. So for her birthday, she caved and asked for a professional deep clean. She expected him to Google cleaning companies, shop around a bit, get a good deal, make an appointment for the clean, and pay for it. He couldn't do that for some reason. She reminded him, and he said he'd look it up, but never did. On the day of her birthday, he finally Googled it, loudly exclaimed it was ridiculously expensive, and said he'd do it himself to save money. So, he half-asked the cleaning job again. That was the last straw, and she divorced him. Yay you! That line about how nobody else would love you. I'm so glad that you didn't buy it. He must have been desperate to say that. He said a lot of things to try and guilt me into staying. I didn't realize how often he used that against me until separating from him, and it became so obvious. He said it a lot more subtly when we were together.
Am I the a-hole for choosing my little sister over wife? I, 29 male, have been married to my wife, 29 female, for 4 years. I have a little sister, 10 female, who lives with my parents. 2 months ago, my parents tragically passed away in a car accident. It has been very tough for my sister and I, but we are managing. I am the only brother, so I decided to take in my little sister and be her guardian. So here comes the issue. My wife and I already decided that we did not want kids. When I told her, she refused and said she did not sign up to be a parent, and we had already decided that. I told her I understand, but life is unfair and sometimes things happen that force us to do things outside of our comfort zone because it is the morally right thing to do. She said that I should put her in foster care or for adoption. I shut down that completely and told her the brother is still alive, so that's not happening. We continued talking about this several times, but she would not change her mind. So I finally told her I am doing it whether she agrees or not. She can either accept this situation or we divorce. And if she decided to go the separation route, I understand, because I am the one who broke the agreement about kids. She started crying and said that she chooses the second option. My in-laws called me after my wife went back to their house, and they started berating me about how I am an a-hole and bad husband, and that a good husband will always choose his wife first. I did not reply until they said that their daughter's tears are more valuable than my sister. That got me pissed, so I told them to go F themselves and hung up the phone. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for divorcing my wife to adopt my sister? Now for the top comments. At first, I was going with no a-holes here. But seriously, your wife suggesting you put your sister up for adoption or into foster care is just... I don't have the words. It's one thing to not want kids. It's another to be that heartless. It's great that you're taking your sister in, and I'm sure you'll find someone a lot better than your soon-to-be ex. Not the a-hole. Took the words out of my mouth. 100%. Seriously, the level of sheer selfishness and lack of empathy in that statement is absolutely mind-boggling. No one really signs up for this sort of thing. You just have to make the best you can of a horrible situation. I could not imagine being able to continue respecting a spouse who said something like that and stood behind it. I hope he was actually far more tactful than I think I would have been able to be, and I am also a child-free person by choice. Not stay home. I don't want kids either, but when it comes to the family we have already, I would never stop my significant other from helping his sisters. One of them is living with us right now because her dad hit her. It isn't what I wanted. I am super introverted, but she is family, and I was immediately ready to take her in. We all hope someone will be there for us if something awful happens. Your parents died, and she is telling you to put your sister in foster care? That is callous and horrible to me. Life is what it is. We can't have everything we want, and we do not abandon family. I hope this isn't real because it makes me so sad. Yes, take care for your sister. Exactly. It's not like he is taking in some random child. This is his family, not the same as having a child. Sure, he will have to raise her, but it's nowhere near the same as having your own child. His wife freaking sucks. No a-holes here. It's unfortunate that your wife will not cave, but also her right to choose to be childless. Good on you to step in for your sister. It sounds like it will be beneficial for both of you at this terrible time. I am so sorry for your loss. She can go into foster care or be put up for adoption. Opie's soon-to-be ex-wife is a huge one for saying that. Next story. Am I the a-hole for revoking my husband's access to my bank account? My husband and I have been married for 3 years. We have 2 separate bank accounts, but both of us know the information of each other's bank account. My husband is working a good job, gets a lot of money. I'm currently in pregnancy leave, but I also have a good job as an optometrist. I also have lots of savings in my bank account. Recently, I found out my husband got money out of my bank account, around $3,000 to lend to his brother. His brother has a job, but refuses to spend his own money and expects his mom and dad to provide for him while he spends money on games and stuff like that. Apparently, my brother-in-law owed some people $3,000, and despite the fact he had that amount in his own bank account, he asked my husband for money. My husband not only gave him money, but got my own savings from my own bank account without asking me first. When I found out, I confronted my husband. Then he went to his parents and brother and complained about me confronting him. My in-laws called me and said I'm an entitled a-hole to make such a big deal over $3,000 since my parents are rich, and that amount is insignificant to me. They said their son needs it to pay off some loans, and I'm the a-hole for making my husband feel bad for helping out his brother. I revoked my husband's access to my bank account, and now he's saying I'm the a-hole and taking it too far instead of trying to resolve this another way. Am I the a-hole? Your husband has shown 2 major marriage-risking behaviors. 1, he broke your trust by stealing from your personal account. He didn't ask you if you'd want to help the brother. He didn't use his money, and he didn't even tell you what he did on his own. He knew it was wrong and did it anyways. 2, he sicked his family on you rather than deal with the problem with you directly. Not the a-hole. I think your marriage has hit a major crisis, and this should not be swept under the rug. Don't forget this gem. My in-laws called me and said I'm an entitled a-hole to make such a big deal over $3,000 since my parents are rich, and that amount is insignificant to me. There are a couple more problems here. 1, the enabling entitlement means brother is going to be a lifelong millstone around his family's neck. There will always be something he needs that the rest of the family will mobilize themselves into gathering for him. 2, the in-laws are gold diggers. They know Opie's parents are well off. The expectations of Opie bankrolling them are and will continue to be high. Not a a-hole. Maternity leave is when you are at your most vulnerable. There is a reason most women who are having babies get asked by nurses if they have a safe home environment. Your husband just told you that A, he'll help himself to your income without your approval. B, he'll help himself to your income while you aren't earning your normal wages, as in eating into your safety net. C, he won't let you raise issues and will walk out on you, and presumably your child, although it's not clear how long he was gone, if you take issue with his behavior. And D, he will get his family to bully you when you disagree. So Opie, is this a safe and healthy marriage? Not a a-hole. I fully believe that if you're married, you should be all in and combine your finances. However, part of that is making sure you are both on board with big layouts. What's big might be different from couple to couple. Like, I wouldn't consider $100 a big amount, but a couple living from paycheck to paycheck probably would. But I think $3,000 would qualify unless you're multi-millionaires. So he used a large chunk of money without you both agreeing, and for what I consider a stupid purpose since brother-in-law just didn't want to use his own money. He took the money from Opie's savings account. It wasn't his money to lend. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for fighting to gain my handicap-accessible house from my ex and her disabled daughter? I, 32 male, recently divorced my ex, 33 female, due to our coffee preferences. Despite having a solid marriage contract about property and finances, the court outright ignored it and awarded my family home to my ex. It's a 5-bedroom house, and I lived and maintained that, that I had modified for my then stepdaughter 16, who has a walking disability. Sure, I can afford to buy and build a house if I so desired, but I got that house from my father, who got it from his father. My parents are not alive, and I am an only child, so the house holds a sentimental value. Well, I lawyered up, fought in the superior court and won. And now X and her daughter have to leave because they cannot afford the legal fees. And I am not willing to go into any settlement now that I know the kind of person I was up against. Problem is, my friends, extended family, and people who know about our family situation. They are calling me the bad guy for putting the daughter in a bad situation. Yes, our country does suck at making places accessible, and my house was the one comfortable place she could be at. I could give that house and make a new one or buy one, but because of the sentimental value attached to the house, I was unwilling. They doubled down that I offered no financial assistance to my spouse out of obligation for being a man. They're all giving moral arguments instead of legal ones, and I for one do not see myself at fault. Now the ex is uploading videos of her daughter on how terrible a place she has to live in. Now that I stole my house, I feel conflicted. Edit. The coffee preference is a joke about how I do not like male genitals in my coffee. That is cheating. Not stay home. It's your house. It belongs in your family. You did it up for your ex-stepdaughter, which was already an amazing thing you did. But they're not a part of your family anymore, and you have no obligation to help. As heartless as people may find that statement, it's true. Anyone who calls you an a-hole is welcome to help pay to do up your ex's new house to make it more accessible for their daughter. Morally and legally, it's your house. It's a family home passed down by your parents, not your ex's parents. It's legally and morally your home. Even appellate courts agree that the lower courts erred in their initial judgment. Also, on the moral side, if he was in a good relationship with a stepdaughter, I could maybe encourage him to think about dropping some financial help to make their new place more accessible. If I divorced and loved my ex-stepkid erased for years, I would, but not on these conditions. The ex-stepdaughter sided with her mother to try and steal his house. She is participating in the online slandering. This is no good. She clearly doesn't care the slightest about Opie, and so I think it's better they all just part ways. I know children can be swayed by their parents, but she is old enough to have a sense of right and wrong. You guys were only married for a few years, not stay home. They had no reasonable expectation to keep the house when it's been in your family for generations, and you guys were together for a short time. I would suggest that maybe you could provide some money that could go directly to building ramps and such for the daughter in the place they're in now. You don't have to outfit the whole place, but maybe help make some modifications. Yes, I was thinking this. I don't think Opie's the a-hole, but from what I read I didn't see any opinions or bad attitude from the daughter and is innocent in this. Could be wrong. If you have any feelings for her being your stepdaughter, it could mean a lot to her. She may be feeling bad, ashamed and like an inconvenience because she may think this is all her fault. Her disability is causing what is probably a nightmare for her. It's you. It's totally you. Hopefully your moneyed feelings for your house are there for you when no one else wants to be. You admit you could afford to just buy another house, which leads me to ask, why didn't you do that and charge your ex rent? You both would have won, and you would have a clear conscience in your twilight years. But you didn't. Ex aside, you essentially left a disabled person in the snow. Why should Opie spend money to buy a new house and let someone who cheated on him and lied in court live in one he already had? Also, if it did that, it will probably ended with the ex making more claims to the house. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that his recent breakup was his fault? Despite having a good job, my brother is cheap. A few years ago, he bought a fixer-upper for a reduced price. It was a complete mess, but he moved in and said he would fix it up himself. The house needs more than a few repairs and some paint, and my brother has no renovation experience or skills. The house has no basement stairs. When the hot water tank broke, he couldn't find anyone to fix it because there was no way to get a person and their tools down the rickety ladder. He hasn't had hot water for over 2 years. None of the rooms have doors. The kitchen has no sink. Only one room is painted. It looks like a 5-year-old did it, and the attic isn't sealed. He uses rainwater to shower and wash his clothes. He has an outhouse in his yard. The house has a functional shower and toilet, but even if he had hot water, he doesn't want to run up his bill. He reuses floss and whatever food he doesn't grow himself. He gets from dumpsters outside restaurants or from the dollar store when it close to expired. His wardrobe is falling apart because he won't buy new clothing. He refuses to have an air conditioner, and we have many days when it's over 100 degrees and his house gets unbearable. He was engaged, but I don't think she realized the extent until they moved in together. She didn't want a huge white wedding, but my brother wanted to barter to get the license fee paid and didn't want to spend anything on the wedding. His plan was to have a friend get ordained and get married in his yard in clothes they already had and not feed anyone. Just send them home after the vows. No photos besides cell phones once taken by the guests. He wouldn't even entertain the idea of having a barbecue because he said it was too expensive. For her birthday, he got her dad flowers he stole from a funeral home and takeout he got from a dumpster. They only lived together for 3 months before she left. Our parents say it isn't his fault, and his girlfriend wanted material things instead of loving him like he is, and they are blaming her. When he complained to me, he expected me to agree. I said it's not materialistic to want to use electricity instead of flashlights, or use an indoor bathroom or eat food that wasn't from a dumpster. I also said it was insulting to expect people to come to your wedding and act as unpaid photographers, and not even feed them. I said the breakup was his fault, not hers. Now he's not talking to me, and our parents expect me to apologize for upsetting him. I refuse to apologize because I believe he is wrong and they are enabling him. I don't think there is anything wrong with being frugal, but my brother is on a different planet. My parents won't stop insisting I'm wrong for mistreating my brother. Should I have just agreed when he complained about the breakup? Tell me, was I wrong for giving an honest opinion? Not stay home. It sounds like your brother has some mental health issues. Nope, there are people like this. Look up extreme cheapskates. If you are in the US, it used to come on TLC. Dumpster divers, eating others' leftovers out of the fridge, begging others for their scraps at restaurants, cooking in the dishwasher, using the pool to wash dishes/clothes or the kids, using tuna cat food instead of tuna for human consumption. There are also come cheapskates on live free or die. They live off the grid primarily in the lower US states. They barter, forge, and live on the fringes. Opie's brother is one of these folks. Yes, it is his fault. He needs to be upfront and honest with any future partner. It's not materialistic to want hot water inside plumbing and electricity. It's not the 1850s frontier. Not stay home. Even living like he is, he's still golden. Tell mom and dad to move in with him since they support him so much. His ex must have really wanted to get married to stay as long as she did. Not stay home. She's not materialistic. She wants common things like hot water and the ability to go into the basement or food that's not from the dumpster. That's unsafe and hazardous. Who would be okay with living like that? That's unacceptable. You're right, Opie. Weird that their definition of materialistic seems to be doesn't want to live in their own filth. Not stay home. There's cheap and thrifty, but this is something else. He needs help. Yep, there's a huge difference between being frugal/thrifty and being miserly. Frugal is not willing to spend $100 for a t-shirt, but will go to a thrift store and pick a good quality t-shirt, and occasionally splurge on something personal like an annual cruise. Buying mostly affordable things without significantly compromising on quality and safety. Miserly is the brother who will do anything and everything to save a penny. Like waiting until clothes become hole-ridden rags before buying a cheap and poor quality $3 t-shirt. And other things despite significant inconvenience in sacrificing personal comfort and safety.